a stormy, windy night, patrol members. And I think it's time for another true story. This one's called The Storm. Cohiba. And a nice hot mug of Joe. It was started as a windy day. Not very much different than this. We were all out at the bunker. There was me, a friend of mine, Jimmy, who I've talked about, fellow I know named Rick, and a guy named Bill Kegabine. Poor Bill has passed since this event, but let's just say he was an interesting person. Anyway, it started off as a windy, blustery day. It was kind of warm. We were doing the usual target shooting and, you know, sitting around BSing with each other. And way off to the south, you could see storm clouds. And I'm talking about storm clouds. You ever looked off and seen big dark storm clouds in the distance thinking, man, that storm's heading this way? Well, these clouds were beyond dark. As a matter of fact, these clouds were damn near black. And there was a giant thunderhead looming way above these dark clouds, probably 35, 40,000 feet up. The big anvil top cloud that got darker as it approached the ground. Well, we kept target shooting, and we were sitting around telling jokes, drinking beers, you know, doing typical stuff guys do out when they're camping in the desert. And this was a long time ago, you know, when you got those, remember those old folding aluminum chairs you take to the beach, you know, they had like the overlapping colored straps that ran this way and that way, made out of aluminum. And we're sitting at the front of the bunker when all of a sudden the sun got blotted out. And I mean, it was almost like night. And it was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And the wind started howling. And I'm talking about if you got up out of your chair was gone. So all of a sudden you could hear the crack of thunder and lightning, and boom, it was shaking. I mean, it was shaking us. So we went inside. We were sitting there watching the storm approaching, and Bill goes, "Hey Jimmy, And, Jimmy's sitting there drinking his beer, smoking his cigarettes. What, Bill? Hey, Jimmy, man. Maybe we shouldn't be sitting out here in these aluminum lawn chairs. So, we all thought that was a wise idea, and we jammed inside the bunker. We set the chairs up in there, and no sooner were we in there when you could feel the hair on your head start to stand up. It was almost like I'm doing this. You could feel this crackly static in the air. And bang, the sky opened up. And I mean opened up. If you've never seen pink, blue, and red lightning, you haven't lived. We could look out the bunker door and see it hitting the ground. And that storm looked like a monster walking across the desert on lightning wet legs. And it started to rain. And the rain was coming sideways. It was blowing parallel to the ground. The ground was dry. And the rain was blowing sideways. You could see the rain hit the side of the car and run down. And that was where it was wet, only there, where the rain was running onto the ground after hitting the car. And it was screaming loud, the wind and the rain. You could hear it hitting the roof of the bunker and hitting the sides of the car. You could feel the electricity in the air. Jimmy shouted and pointed outside, and there were 3 cars parked outside the bunker door. And you could see shafts of electricity running up their antennas with a little sparkly ball at the end of them. It was like looking at a lightsaber with one of those the plasma balls at the end. And all of a sudden, we started to hear cracking noises, and electricity would snap from the car to the ground. You could see it. Snap! Snap! And it got worse from there. It really started banging and howling. And we're sitting in the bunker. There'd be instantaneous lightning flash and thunder. And it was so loud that dirt was coming down from the roof of the bunker, falling in our heads, right? And it got downright scary. Boom, it sounded like an artillery duel. Like there were artillery pieces outside the bunker. I was sitting, and you could look out the bunker door at the railroad tracks, which were about, 50 yards away. Lightning would hit the tracks, and spheres of electricity would rise up off the track and float through the air like will-o'-the-wisps and then vanish. Yep. And flashes of electricity would shoot down the tracks in both directions. The tracks would light up like fluorescent lamps when the lightning hit them. Boom, flash, and little spheres of electricity would shoot off. It was downright frightening, and I've been caught in a tornado, and this was scarier than that. This went on for about a half an hour, and we were just shaking in our shoes. We were sitting on the ground. We were afraid to sit in those aluminum chairs anymore. Boom, flash, boom, flash. And eventually, after like that 30 minutes or so, I said, it moved off towards the north. So Rick, for some inexplicable reason, said, "Hey, anybody want ice cream?" What? Oh, well, I thought how I needed ice. I would drive up to the end of the road. There used to be a place called the Flying Saucers Garage there, and it was owned by this husband and wife called the Metzgers. And at that time, the gas station was still open and they still owned it. So Rick said, I'm going to drive up and get ice and I'll bring us all back ice cream. So Jimmy and I and Bill's like, sure. So he hops up in his car and takes off down the road, the Bunker Road, driving into the inky blackness of the departing storm. And Bill looks at Jimmy and goes, dude, I don't think we'll ever see him again. We did. He made it back, you know, with the ice cream. But man, that was one of the hairiest times I've ever had camping out in the desert. And I'm not joking. It was just hammering down rain. It was spooky, scary type of storm. Ooh, wrong way. There we go. The Metzgers, they were different kind of people. They opened the gas station in 1933. And according to the locals, the gas station had never been closed. It was open 7 days a week from 1933 until they sold it in the 80s. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Metzger told me that they did close for half a day in the 60s to go to her brother's funeral in Los Angeles. But they said they almost never left that small town of Chambliss. I asked her how it got the name the Flying Saucers Garage, but they would never tell me. Mr. Metzger would just smile and, you know, clam up. But they were good people. One time a buddy of mine got stuck in a ditch, and that's where we used to buy our gas to get home. And some of us had almost no gasoline. So while we were working to get this guy unstuck from the ditch, another one of our troop drove up to the Metzger's gas station, and they said that they would stay open until we got there to sell us gas. And we got there like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and they were still open for us. And it was mighty nice of them to do that. Mr. and Mrs. Metzger in Chambliss, and they owned the Flying Saucer Garage. I'm sure they're past now because they were in their like 70s or 80s in the 80s. I had a 1952 Ford pickup, and I got all the way out to the bunker, and it had a flathead V8, and I had a water pump that started leaking real bad. And I didn't know if I was going to make it home. The truck had 2 water pumps, a right one and a left one. So we got to the Flying Saucer's Garage, and I asked the Metzgers if they had any stop leak, because I was going to pour stop leak in the radiator and see if that would fix or at least slow up the leak in the water pump. And he came out and looked under the hood, and he said, you know, I got a set of water pumps for this truck in the old garage. I've had them for like 60 years. I'll sell them to you for $20. Well, inside the garage in these crumbling old boxes were 2 brand new water pumps for a flathead Ford V8. And I put one of them on right there at the gas station, and it got me home. And when I sold the truck, I still had the other good one in the back because, you know, I hadn't used it. These are great people. Later on, they sold the gas station to a young Hispanic kid who was going to put a restaurant in, And then the state came through and found out his tanks were leaking on the ground. So they made him shut down the gas station, and he never reopened. It's still closed to this day. It's all abandoned. And it's a shame. Metzger's Market. Wow. Has it only been 4 minutes? Seems like longer. Anyway, I guess that's it. Just wanted to tell you this short story about the storm in the desert and Metzger's Market. And unfortunately, some of these people I told you about are passed away. But such is life. But you know what, patrol members, I want to thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video and click the little bell so you get all the notifications. And I appreciate you watching Tales and Mysteries of the Mojave Patrol.